I strongly advise keeping your default settings unchanged. Instead of remapping everything, create a dedicated profile for each era. It's far more efficient to build a new profile and only edit the specific buttons you'll need for that machine. You'll notice that in the default setup, button 1 is typically used to center the view. However, since I fly with open track, I don't need it. Instead, I've mapped the blip switch to button 1. Why? Because historically, that's exactly where it was located, right in the middle of the stick. In Il-2 Sturmovik, the hat switch, the small thumbstick on top of your joystick, allows you to look around so freely and smoothly that a center view button becomes redundant. Unless you're recording cinematic footage and need a perfectly locked frame, you won't miss it. By making this change, you trade a generic function for true historical immersion. I won't just tell you which button to press. I want you to understand why your engine reacts this way. In the air, a button is just a tool, but understanding the result of your action is what keeps you alive. This is not just a tutorial, this is learning to understand your machine. The logic here is simple, this layout is built so you never have to look down. Notice how the buttons are grouped in vertical lines. To switch functions, you don't hunt for a key, you just slide your finger up or down the line, or move one step to the side and repeat. My mapping is a result of hundreds of hours of flight, testing, and hard-earned experience. For instance, the largest, most accessible button is reserved for your most critical action, the engine start. Directly above it, you'll find your reload. You might notice I don't use the traditional throttle slider at all, I've never felt the need for it with this setup. This configuration is optimized for right-handed pilots, keeping your dominant hand locked on the stick. Treat this not as a strict rule, but as a blueprint based on practical mastery. The remaining buttons are yours, map them however suits your personal style. The fuel gauge, located just in front of the cockpit, has a maximum capacity of 120 liters. It indicates exactly how much fuel remains in the tank. The anemometer is mounted on the wing struts to ensure it measures clean, undisturbed airflow. The scale ranges from 60 to 240 km per hour. During a standard cruise, you'll see the needle hovering around 130 to 140. The tachometer, or RPM gauge, measures revolutions per minute. For this rotary engine, it indicates how many times the entire engine block rotates every minute. The display ranges from 4 to 16, where single digits represent hundreds and double digits represent thousands. For example, 12 on the scale translates to 1,200 revolutions per minute. The altimeter displays a range from 0 to 8,000 meters, or 0 to 8 kilometers. Between each major number, there are 4 marks, each representing a 200-meter increment. For example, as seen on the screen, the current altitude is approximately 1,500 meters, or 1.5 kilometers. The fuel mixture lever has a full range of motion from 0 to 100%, spanning from lean to rich. You must adjust this manually as your altitude changes to maintain the correct air-to-fuel ratio. Pay close attention to the sound of your engine. If it runs with a steady, monotonous rhythm, the mixture is set correctly. If the engine begins to choke or produce uneven, sputtering sounds, it is time to adjust. While an incorrect mixture can be used to intentionally slow the aircraft down, it is generally safer and more effective to rely on the blip switch for speed control. Because this is a rotary engine, its design is incredibly simple with 2 primary modes, idle or full power. To slow down safely, you must use the blip switch. Engaging this button cuts the ignition to the cylinders, temporarily stopping the engine's combustion for as long as the switch is held down. This reduces your thrust and allows the airplane to slow. You will primarily use the blip in 3 scenarios: first, during a steep dive to maintain a safe airspeed; second, when adjusting your position while flying in formation; and finally, to control your approach speed during landing. Being a pilot is about more than just knowing the buttons. You have a living, breathing machine under you. The wind rushing past the cockpit, the vibration of the rotary engine, the violent shaking of your joystick near a stall, these are not just effects. They are your signs. They tell you if you're doing it right or if you're about to lose control. I can teach you the technical aspects, but the experience. That's the path you must walk alone. Before starting the engine, make sure you set the mixture to 100%, otherwise, your engine won't start. This is the baseline. Later during the flight, I will show you exactly how the machine behaves when the mixture is too rich or too lean relative to your altitude. You'll see the engine struggle and the gauges react. Pay attention, because this is where you learn to listen to your aircraft. Listen closely to this exact moment. Do you hear how uneven the engine is running? It changed almost instantly, and you can see it translated directly onto the tachometer. Notice how the needle is bouncing up and down. The first sign is always the engine song changing its pitch. The second, to be sure, is the gauge itself. it corresponds perfectly with the sound. Since I've been climbing into thinner air, the mixture has become too rich. I need to lower it now to stabilize the engine work and bring that needle back to a steady rhythm. I know you're eager to take to the skies and engage in dogfights. But the truth is, first, you will fight yourself. Then, you must tame your machine and the weather. Only then can you think about combat. The reality for World War I pilots was brutal.